My daughter was born at 12:07 in the morning while my husband stood on a bar table with his childhood sweetheart's arm around his neck. 32 people watched him raise a glass and laugh into someone's phone. Claire will forgive me, Derek said. She always does. I watched the video from my hospital bed, saved it to 3 separate folders, and turned off the location sharing that had connected our phones for 7 years. The nurse beside me went very still. Mrs. Foster, she said carefully, do you want me to call your husband again? No. My voice surprised me. It did not shake. Across the room, my daughter slept beneath a pale cotton blanket, one tiny fist pressed beside her cheek. Her name was Emma. In another life, I had spent 5 years begging Derek to notice her before his choices killed her. I had died a year after her funeral. Then I had opened my eyes in this hospital room with stitches, blood on the sheets, and Emma breathing 6 feet away from me. Derek was alive. Emma was alive. And Rebecca Shaw was wearing my husband's suit jacket in a crowded bar while his friends celebrated her return to Chicago on the screen. Rebecca leaned close enough for her lips to brush Derek's ear. You should have been mine, she said. Someone behind the camera shouted. He still can be. The bar erupted in laughter. Derek did not pull away. He looked straight into the camera and smiled with the careless confidence of a man who believed consequences belonged to other people. Claire knows I'm not going anywhere, he said. He was right about one thing. He was not going anywhere. I was. I pressed the download icon again, then sent the video to an email address Derek did not know I still used. I saved screenshots of the timestamp, the location tag, Rebecca's hand against his chest, and the message he had sent me 3 hours earlier. Supplier emergency. I may miss the beginning. You'll be fine. I had been 7 centimeters dilated when he sent it. At 10 centimeters. I had called him 4 times when Emma's heart rate dropped. Dr. Patricia Chen had called twice more. Derek had silenced his phone before the first round of drinks. In my previous life, I had made excuses for him before he even entered the room. He had arrived 14 hours after Emma's birth, smelling of whiskey and Rebecca's perfume, with a stuffed bear from the hospital gift shop. He had kissed my forehead, complained that I looked angry, and told me not to ruin the happiest day of our lives. I had swallowed the humiliation because I thought keeping a family together was the same thing as protecting my child. 5 years later, I had watched security footage of him leaving Emma beside the pool at his mother's lake house because Rebecca had run crying toward the dock. He had followed Rebecca. Emma had followed him. No one had looked back until the water stopped moving. My chest tightened. But the pain was not panic. It was memory. I reached for the call button. Nurse Holly returned immediately. I need my daughter's chart placed under privacy restrictions. I said. No room number. No visitor information. No one gets access without my permission. She looked at the sleeping baby, then at the bar video frozen on my screen. Do you feel unsafe? I feel clear. That answer seemed to matter to her. All right, she said. I'll contact security and patient services. I also need the complete call log showing every attempt the hospital made to reach my husband. Her expression changed, not pity, understanding. I can request that for you. Thank you. When she left, I took off my wedding ring. The skin beneath it was pale and tender. For years, I had believed that mark meant devotion. Now, it looked like proof that something had been pressing against me for too long. I placed the ring inside an empty specimen bag, sealed it, and wrote the time across the label. 12:41 a.m., 34 minutes after Emma's birth. Then I called my sister. Audrey answered on the second ring. Is the baby here? Claire, are you okay? I've been calling Derek because Mom's old group chat said you went into labor. But Emma is here, I said. Audrey started crying. I did not. Not yet. I need you to listen carefully. Do you still have the key to Grandma's apartment? A pause. Yes. Go there. Turn on the heat. Make up the small bedroom. Then go to my house and collect the blue document box from the back of my closet, the family tablet from the kitchen, my laptop, Emma's car seat, and the packed hospital bag Derek forgot to bring. Why? Because I'm not going home. The silence on the line was longer this time. Then Audrey said, "Tell me where you need me." That was the moment I understood the difference between love and possession. Love did not demand that I stay in pain so someone else could remain comfortable. Love asked where I needed help and then showed up. I opened my contacts and found a name I had once saved. D for a documentary project about family courts. Vanessa Torres. Family law attorney. I had interviewed her 2 years earlier. At the end of the project, she had pressed her card into my hand and said, "People who are good at documenting other people's lives are often terrible at protecting their own. Keep this." At 1:03 a.m. I sent her a message. "I need legal advice before my husband realizes I have left." Outside my room, the hospital continued its quiet rhythm. Wheels rolled across polished floors. A machine chimed. Someone laughed softly at the nurse's station. Across the city, Derek raised another glass. He had no idea that while he celebrated the certainty of my forgiveness, I was building the first hour of a life that no longer included him. Vanessa called me at 1:11 a.m. She did not begin with questions about my marriage. She asked 3 things. Are you physically safe? Yes. Is the baby medically stable? Yes. Do you believe Derek will try to take her without your consent? I looked at Emma. In my first life, Derek had never wanted the work of fatherhood. He had wanted the photograph, the last name, the Christmas card, and the power to decide when I was allowed to leave. Yes, I said, not because he knows how to care for her, because he will see me leaving as a challenge. Then we plan for behavior, not intentions. The sentence settled over me like a locked door. Vanessa asked me to forward everything I had: the bar video, Derek's messages, screenshots of the missed calls, my discharge information, any financial documents involving separate property. I invested money in his company. I said, "How much?" $180,000. Gift or loan? Loan. There's a promissory note and a security agreement. Who insisted on that? My grandmother. Your grandmother was a smart woman. She was. What about housing? The marital house is jointly titled. Grandma's apartment is only in my name. I inherited it before the marriage. Good. Do not transfer, hide, destroy, or empty anything jointly owned. Secure your personal documents, your separate property records, and enough money for ordinary living expenses. Leave a clear paper trail. I understand. Do not confront Derek tonight. Do not threaten him. Do not post online. Send one factual message when you and Emma are in a secure location. What should it say? Claire. Emma. Tell him you and Emma are safe. Tell him you will communicate about the child through counsel until a temporary arrangement is established. Nothing emotional. Nothing that can be twisted. I closed my eyes. In my previous life, I had written paragraphs. I had begged him to explain why Rebecca mattered more than the birth of his daughter. He had responded with 3 words. "You're being dramatic." I had saved that message for years, not because it helped me, but because I kept rereading it as if a different meaning might appear this time. I would not ask him to explain something his choices had already made clear. "Vanessa," I said, "how soon can we file?" "Today." It was still technically the day Emma had been born. "I want temporary primary custody. You'll have to support the request with facts. Not just the fact that he missed the birth. I have more." I told her about the joint account 6 months earlier. I had noticed a payment to the Langford Hotel. Derek had said it was for a client dinner. Then there had been a $5,000 wire to a divorce law firm. A charge for a furnished apartment, jewelry, spa services. Every time I asked, he called it business development. In my first life, I had discovered the truth after Emma's death. Derek had been paying Rebecca's expenses from the moment she returned to Chicago. Now I knew exactly where to look. The family tablet is synced to his messages. I said, it was purchased jointly and used as our household device. I know there are conversations on it. Do not access password-protected accounts you are not authorized to enter. Vanessa warned. But if messages are already synced to a shared device, preserve what is visible. Photograph the device. Record the date. Do not alter anything. I can do that. Of course you can. You edit documentaries. Her confidence in me almost broke something open. I had spent so long being told I overthought everything that I had forgotten Precisio. N could be a strength. After we ended the call, I watched Emma breathe. Her mouth opened slightly with each exhale. Her eyelashes were nearly invisible. A faint red mark rested between her eyebrows. In my first life, I had known every expression she would grow into. The serious frown she wore while stacking blocks. The open-mouthed laugh when Audrey danced badly in the kitchen. The way she pressed cold hands against my neck after playing outside. The last time I saw her alive, she had been wearing a yellow swimsuit with tiny white flowers. Mommy, watch me. I had been answering an email Derek said could not wait. He had promised to watch her. I pressed my fingers against the hospital blanket. I'm watching now. I whispered. I will never stop again. At 2:06 a.m. Audrey texted me a photograph of the blue document box resting on Grandma's dining table. Found it. A second picture showed Emma's car seat beside a folded bassinet. Then she sent a third image. The family tablet was lit on the kitchen counter. A message preview was visible across the SC. Reen. Rebecca. Once the baby comes, she'll be too exhausted to keep checking the accounts. Audrey called immediately. I didn't open anything. She said. It lit up when I plugged it in. I photographed the screen from every angle. Bring it to me without touching the messages. I will. Did you see Derek? No. The house was empty. There were empty wine bottles in the recycling and a garment bag with Rebecca's name on it in the guest room. My body went cold. In the first life, Rebecca had claimed she only began staying at our house after Emma was born because she was helping. She had already moved pieces of herself into my home before I gave birth. Take a photograph of the garment bag. I said. Do not open it. Claire. I want to throw it into the street. I know. Why do you sound so calm? Because anger is expensive. I need mine to last. At dawn, Dr. Chen came to examine me. She was a compact woman with silver threaded through her dark hair and a voice that made instructions sound like promises. Your bleeding is controlled. Your blood pressure is good. Emma's temperature and feeding are normal. I would prefer to keep you for a FU. 24 hours. What is the earliest medically responsible discharge? She studied me. Late tonight. If nothing changes, you'll need support at home and a pediatric follow-up within 48 hours. I have both. Your husband has not returned our calls. I know. Do you want social services? I have a lawyer and a safe place to go. Dr. Chen glanced toward the door. Then lowered her voice. Patient services told me you requested privacy. I will document that you are alert, oriented, and making informed decisions. Thank you. She did not ask me to forgive Derek because I had just had a baby. She did not tell me stress was bad for my milk supply. She did not say father sometimes panicked. She looked at the facts and respected my decision. That simple respect felt more intimate than most of my marriage. By 8 in the morning, Derek had still not called me. The bar's social media page posted photographs from the previous night. In one, Rebecca sat sideways on Derek's lap while he held a bottle above her glass. In another, she wore his jacket and rested her bare feet on his thigh. The caption read, "Some bonds never change. I saved everything." At 9:17 a.m., Derek finally sent a text. Just woke up at Mike's. How are things? He did not ask whether Emma had been born. For one wild second, I wanted to answer with a photograph of her face. I wanted him to understand what he had missed. Then I remembered that understanding could not be forced on someone who benefited from not seeing. I did not reply. At 10:03, he called. I watched the screen until it went dark. He called again and again. The fourth time, he left a voicemail. Claire, call me. I know you're pissed. But Rebecca had a rough night and I couldn't just leave her. I'm coming to the hospital after I shower. Don't make this into something bigger than it is. He still did not ask whether our child was alive. I forwarded the voicemail to Vanessa. She replied with one sentence. Keep every original file. By noon, Audrey arrived wearing yesterday's clothes and carrying enough bags to look like she was moving into the hospital. When she saw Emma, she stopped in the doorway. "Oh," she whispered. Her hand covered her mouth. I had watched Audrey meet Emma before in another life. She had cried then, too. She had brought a stuffed rabbit with one crooked ear and refused to let Derek's mother replace it with a more expensive toy after Emma died. Audrey had kept that rabbit in a box because I could not bear to look at it. Now she placed the same rabbit beside the bassinet. "I bought it 3 months ago," she said. "I know it's ugly. It's perfect." She came to my bedside and wrapped her arms around me carefully. I let myself cry for exactly 1 minute. Not for Derek. For the child I had lost. For the sister who had stood beside me at a tiny grave. For the impossible warmth of Emma's living body a few feet away. Audrey held me without asking me to explain. When I stopped, she wiped her own face. "Tell me what we're doing." I showed her Vanessa's instructions. We photographed every document before placing it in a separate envelope. My passport, birth certificate, the deed to Grandma's apartment, the promissory note for the money I had loaned Derek's company, insurance information, tax returns. Then we examined the tablet. The messages had synced automatically because Derek used the device to control the house speakers and calendar. His conversation with Rebecca was open in the recent app display. I recorded the screen with my phone before touching anything. The messages went back 8 months. "Rebecca, he says I can stay at the Langford another week, but I need the deposit for the apartment. Derek, I'll move money tomorrow. Rebecca, from the business account. Derek, joint account is easier. Claire barely checks it." Another exchange appeared 3 weeks later. "Rebecca, once the baby comes, she'll be too exhausted to keep checking the accounts. Derek, she already stopped asking. Rebecca, and the house. Derek, both names. But she won't fight me. Rebecca, you always say that. Derek, because I know my wife." The cruelty was not in the insult. It was in the confidence. He knew the version of me who had spent years turning pain into patience. He did not know the woman holding the phone. There were messages about hotel rooms, meals, and Rebecca's divorce lawyer. There were flirtations disguised as nostalgia. "Remember the cabin after graduation? You were supposed to choose me. Maybe I still will." Derek had responded to that one with a photograph of the whiskey cabinet in our house. "Whenever you want." Audrey paced to the window. "I will never understand how you're not screaming." I screamed in the first life. She turned. Did not told her about the rebirth. Not yet. Maybe I never would. Some truths were too large to ask another person to carry. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I have already spent too much time trying to make him hear me." At 4:30 in the afternoon, Vanessa arrived. She wore a navy suit and carried a laptop, a portable scanner, and the expression of someone who had already decided that chaos would become a file. She met Emma first. Then she sat beside my bed and reviewed the evidence. "The messages are relevant to dissipation of marital assets," she said. "The bar footage is relevant to credibility, substance use, and his availability during the birth. The hospital logs establish a clean timeline. Will any of it stop him from taking her? Nothing in family court is automatic. He is her legal father. Unless there is immediate danger, he will eventually have parenting time." The answer hurt, even though I expected it. Vanessa did not soften it. "Our job is not to erase him," she continued. "Our job is to create a structure that protects Emma and forces Derek to demonstrate responsibility before he receives trust. I can accept that. Can you?" I looked at my daughter. "I can accept a court giving him a path. I cannot accept handing him control because he demands it." "Good. I need you to remember that distinction." She prepared the petition while Audrey fed me soup. "We requested temporary primary physical custody, exclusive use of Grandma's apartment as my residence, financial restraints preventing either spouse from moving large sums, and an order requiring all communication to remain in writing." Vanessa also drafted preservation notices for the bar, the hospital, Derek's company, and our bank. At 7:50 p.m. Derek texted again. I'm outside your room. Security says you restricted visitors. Stop this and let me in. My pulse remained steady. A second message appeared. Rebecca told me about the video. I was drunk. It was a joke. Now you cannot keep me from my daughter. He had finally said the word. Not her name. My daughter. A possession. A position. A threat. At 8:04. Hospital security called my room. Mr. Foster is at the maternity entrance. The officer said. He appears agitated. He is demanding access. Is he sober? He smells of alcohol. He does not have my permission to enter. We will escort him out. Derek began calling. Audrey reached for my phone. I stopped her. No. Let me answer. No. He wants a reaction he can use to drag me back into the old pattern. What old pattern? He hurts me. I explain why it hurt. He argues with the explanation. I end up comforting him because he feels accused. Audrey sat down slowly. That is exactly what he does. I know. At 10:40, Dr. Chen returned. You and Emma are medically cleared. She said. I still recommend rest. Hydration. And someone with you continuously for the next few days. Audrey will stay. I've arranged a pediatric appointment for tomorrow afternoon. The office has your privacy request. Thank you. Holly helped me dress. Every movement hurt. My body felt heavy and unfamiliar. Blood soaked the tea. Hick pad beneath my clothes. My arms trembled when I lifted Emma into the car seat. Leaving was not cinematic. I did not stride through the hospital in heels with my head high. I moved slowly. I stopped twice because of pain. Audrey carried the bags while I held the car seat with both NDS. At 11:41 p.m. 23 hours and 34 minutes after Emma's birth, we exited through a private discharge entrance. The air outside was cold enough to catch in my lungs. Audrey opened the back door of her car. Before I climbed in, I looked up at the hospital windows. Somewhere behind those lit squares, a woman was becoming a mother. Somewhere else, a family was gathering around a child. I had once believed a family was defined by who stood in the photograph. Now I understood it was defined by who stayed when staying required something. I strapped Emma's car seat into place. Then I sent Derek the message Vanessa had approved. Emma and I are safe. I have retained counsel until a temporary parenting arrangement is established. Communication concerning Emma must be in writing through my attorney. Do not come to my separate residence. His reply arrived before Audrey started the engine. What the hell does that mean? Then, you named her without me. Then, you do not get to disappear with my child. I looked down at Emma. She has a name. I said quietly. You were invited to be there when I gave it to her. At 12:16 a.m. Derek arrived at the room where I had given birth. The room was empty. I learned the details later from the security report. He demanded to know where I had gone. He accused the nurses of helping me abduct his child. He kicked a plastic chair hard enough to crack one leg. Holly told I had been discharged after medical clearance. Dr. Chen told him the hospital had called him 6 times. Security told him to leave. At 12:43, he opened the sealed envelope Vanessa's courier had delivered to our house. Inside were copies of the separation petition, the temporary custody motion, and a preservation notice ordering him not to delete messages, financial records, or footage from the bar. Attached to the motion was a still image. Derek stood on a table with a glass raised above his head. Rebecca's arms were around him. Beneath the image, Vanessa had printed the time stamp. 12:08 a.m. 1 minute after Emma was born. At 12:51. Derek left me a voicemail for the first time. He sounded sober. Claire, what have you done? I listened once. Then I archived it. The question was wrong. For 7 years. The story had been about what Derek did and what I absorbed. That story ended the moment Emma took her first breath. The right question was what I would do next. And this time, I had an answer. Everything necessary. For the first 4 days. Derek tried every version of himself. On the first morning, he was furious. You have no legal right to hide her from me. At noon, He became reasonable. Let's talk without lawyers. We are adults. By evening. He was wounded. I cannot believe you would do this on the day I became a father. On the second day, flowers arrived at Grandma's apartment. He had found the address through an old tax document. But Vanessa had already arranged for building security to reject unapproved visitors. The card read, "Come home. We can fix this." I photographed it, sent it to Vanessa, and threw the flowers away. On the third day, he sent a photograph of the nursery in our marital house. The crib was assembled, a mobile turned above it, a framed sign with Emma's name leaned against the wall. I had ordered that sign. I had washed the sheets. I had chosen the paint while Derek complained that every shade looked same. You built her room here. He wrote, "This is her home." I answered through the parenting application Vanessa had established. Emma's current residence is safe and appropriate. Parenting arrangements will be addressed at the hearing. His response came seconds later. "Stop talking like a lawyer." I did not reply. On the fourth day, Margaret called Audrey. She did not call me because Vanessa had instructed the family to communicate in writing. She called the person she thought she could pressure. Audrey put the call on speaker after warning Margaret that I was present. "This has gone far enough." Margaret said, "Whatever disagreement Claire has with Derek does not justify depriving us of the baby. Her name is Emma." I said. A sharp pause. "Claire. You sound very calm." "I am. That concerns me." Of course it did. Anger would have allowed her to call me irrational. Tears would have allowed her to call me unstable. Calm gave her nothing. So, she treated it as a symptom. "What exactly concerns you?" I asked. "You gave birth less than a week ago. Women in your condition can make extreme decisions. My doctor documented that I am medically and mentally capable of making decisions. You left your husband without discussion. Derek was unavailable for discussion. He made a mistake. He Ade several choices. Rebecca was in crisis. So was I. You were surrounded by medical professionals." I looked at Emma, sleeping against my chest. There it was. The logic that had shaped my entire marriage. Someone else's need was urgent because it was dramatic. Mine was manageable because I had always managed it. "Margaret," I said, "I will not debate the value of my labor against Rebecca's evening at a bar. She is going through a divorce. I was giving birth. You are being deliberately cruel." "No. I am being specific." Margaret's breathing changed. "What do you want?" "A legal separation. A safe parenting plan. Full financial disclosure. Repayment of funds used for Rebecca's expenses." "This is blackmail." "No. Blackmail requires a threat. I am describing the legal process. You will destroy Derek's reputation. Derek was filmed. You saved that disgusting video." "Yes. You should have protected your husband. He should have protected his wife and child." Margaret's voice turned cold. "Emma is a foster. She is also a Bennett. She belongs with her father. She belongs with the parent who knows when she last ate." The call ended 10 seconds later. Margaret's attorney sent Vanessa a letter that afternoon accusing me of denying Derek access and suggesting mediation. Vanessa answered with 3 proposed supervised visits at a licensed family center pending the temporary hearing. Derek rejected them. He wanted Emma brought to the marital house without supervision. Vanessa repeated the offer. He rejected it again. On the 6th day, he posted a photograph of the empty nursery on social media. No caption. He did not need one. His friends filled the silence. "Praying for you, brother. A father deserves his child. Some women use babies as weapons." Rebecca commented with a white heart. I did not respond. Instead, I recorded the post, the comments, and the time. Then Rebecca posted a story. It was a black background with white text. "Truth always comes out, even when people run from it." An hour later, one of Derek's friends sent Audrey a message. "Is Claire refusing a paternity test?" I was breastfeeding Emma when Audrey showed me. For several seconds, the room made no sound except my daughter swallowing. In the first life, Derek had questioned Emma's paternity during a fight when she was 2. He had been drunk. Rebecca had made a joke about Emma's gray eyes. Derek had apologized the next morning and claimed he did not remember. I had spent weeks trying to prove my loyalty to a man who had been spending our money on another woman. Now the accusation had arrived 5 days after birth. I handed Emma to Audrey and opened the parenting application. Your public statements and those made by Ms. Shaw have created questions regarding Emma's paternity. I consent to testing through a court-approved laboratory with documented chain of custody procedures. The complete report may be filed with the court. Derek called immediately. I declined the call. He wrote, I never said she wasn't mine. Your attorney may communicate whether you are withdrawing the request. There is no request. Then please instruct Ms. Shaw and your friends to correct the statements. He stopped responding. The next morning, his lawyer filed a motion requesting genetic testing. The filing stated that my sudden and secretive departure raised legitimate concerns regarding the child's parentage. Vanessa read the sentence aloud in her office. Her expression remained neutral, but she removed her glasses and placed them on the desk with unnecessary care. He wants to use the test as a weapon, she said. I know. You can oppose it. No. Claire. The implication is insulting. That is why I want the result in the record. She studied me. You are certain. In 6 months. He will claim he never questioned Emma. In 5 years. He will tell her I kept him away because I was hiding something. I want the truth documented. Now. Vanessa put her glasses back on. Then we agree with conditions. Accredited laboratory. Both parties tested. Results filed under seal but available in the custody record. No public statements before or after. Good. You understand the result does not determine parenting ability. Yes. It only answers biology. I know. What I did not say was that Derek had always confused biology with entitlement. He thought being Emma's father meant she belonged to him. I believed it. Meant he owed her care. The difference would define everything that followed. The temporary hearing took place when Emma was 11 days old. I wore a loose navy dress because my body had not returned to anything familiar. My breasts ached. I had slept for 90 minutes at a time. A howling tear made every chair feel hostile. Derek entered the courtroom in a charcoal suit. He looked exhausted but expensive. Margaret sat behind him. Rebecca sat beside her. The sight of Rebecca in family court nearly made Audrey stand up. I touched my sister's wrist. Let her be seen. I whispered. Derek's eyes found mine for 1 second. His face softened. Then he looked at the infant carrier beside me. His mouth tightened. The judge was a woman in her late 50s named Judge Susan Park. She reviewed the file before looking over her glasses. Mr. Foster. Have you met your daughter? No, Your Honor. My wife disappeared with her. Judge Park glanced at the record. Counsel for Mrs. Foster offered 3 supervised visits. Derek's lawyer stood. Those conditions were unnecessary and insulting. That was not my question. Derek shifted. No. I have not met her. Why did you reject the visits? I am not dangerous. Again. That was not my question. His lawyer touched his arm. Derek took a breath. I did not believe I should have to see my own child under supervision. Judge Park turned to Vanessa. Why did your client request supervision? Vanessa submitted the hospital records. Bar footage, social media posts, and Derek's angry voicemail from the empty hospital room. The judge watched 30 seconds of the video without expression. Derek stood on the table. Rebecca leaned against him. Claire will forgive me, he said from the courtroom speakers. She always does. The sound of his friends laughing filled the room. No one moved. Vanessa then displayed the hospital call log. 10:14 p.m. Call unanswered. 10:37 p.m. Call unanswered. 11:02 p.m. Call unanswered. 11:46 p.m. Call unanswered. 12:03 a.m. Emergency contact attempt unanswered. 12:12 a.m. Birth notification unanswered. The hospital security report indicates Mr. Foster arrived the following night smelling of alcohol. Vanessa said. He became aggressive when informed that Mrs. Foster had been discharged. Derek's attorney rose. My client had consumed alcohol the prior evening. There is no evidence he was intoxicated 24 hours later. Judge Park read the report. He told security he had continued drinking after learning of the birth. Derek looked at Rebecca. She looked away. Vanessa continued. My client has never asked that Mr. Foster be permanently denied contact. She proposed immediate visits in a structured setting. He declined because the conditions offended him. Judge Park turned to Derek. Mr. Foster, newborn care is not an award for a parent's dignity. The court's concern is the child. His face flushed. I understand. Do you know the child's feeding schedule? He looked at me. I did not help him. I haven't been allowed to see her. The pediatric records were shared through the parenting application. Derek's lawyer whispered. Every 2 to 3 hours. Derek said. Breast milk or formula? Both. Emma had never received formula. Vanessa did not smile. Neither did I. Judge Park made notes. The temporary order granted me primary physical custody. Derek received 3 supervised visits each week at the Lakeshore Family Center. Before the court would consider unsupervised parenting time, he had to complete a substance use assessment, a newborn care course, and 6 successful supervised visits. All communication had to occur through the parenting application. Neither party could make public statements about paternity, custody, or the child. The genetic test would proceed. Outside the courtroom, Derek followed me toward the elevators. Claire. Vanessa stepped between us. He may speak through the application. She said. I want to see my wife. I am not your wife in any way that requires a private conversation. I said. His expression cracked. You cannot mean that. I filed for divorce because of one night. Because one night showed me the structure of our entire marriage. You were in a hospital. Yes. You were safe. Emma's heart rate dropped while you were drinking. His face changed. I didn't know. You did not know because you chose not to answer. Rebecca was. Do not finish that sentence. It was the first time my voice rose. Everyone near the elevator looked at us. Derek stopped. I lowered my voice again. You have used her pain to excuse every injury you caused me. You will not use her name to excuse missing our daughter's birth. Claire. I love you. No. You relied on me. That is not fair. Fairness is what the court is for. The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside with Audrey, Vanessa, and Emma. Derek remained in the hallway. At the first supervised visit, Derek arrived with a gift bag from a luxury children's store. Inside were 3 dresses sized for a 1-year-old. The supervisor, Thomas Lane, explained how the visit would work. Emma had been fed 30 minutes earlier. Her diaper bag contained labeled milk, diapers, wipes, a change of clothes, and written instructions. Derek stared at the bottle warmer. How long does this take? 3 minutes. Thomas said. Derek looked at me. Are you staying? No. His face hardened. You don't want to see me with her. The visit is for you and Emma. Claire. We need to talk. No. You need to learn how to hold your daughter safely. Thomas cleared his throat. Derek took Emma. His hands were too high beneath her shoulders. Her head tipped backward. Support her neck. I said. I know. He did not. Thomas adjusted his arm. Emma began to cry. Derek looked instantly overwhelmed. What does she want? She may need time to settle. Thomas said. Derek bounced her too quickly. Stop. I said. He glared at me. She's fine. She is 11 days old. Support her head and slow down. Thomas intervened again. I forced myself to leave the room. Every instinct demanded that I take Emma back. But I also needed the record to show whether Derek could learn when someone corrected him. Through the observation window, I watched him sit with her for several minutes. He studied her face. Something in him softened. He touched one finger to her tiny hand. Emma curled her fist around it. Derek began to cry. The sight hurt more than I expected. He did love something about her. Perhaps the resemblance. Perhaps the idea of being needed. Perhaps the sudden proof that life continued through him. But love was not measured by emotion in a quiet room. It was measured by what a person chose when care became inconvenient. Halfway through the visit, Derek asked Thomas whether I had been seeing someone else. Thomas redirected him to the baby. 10 minutes later, he asked whether I had packed all my belongings from the marital house. Thomas redirected him again. At the end, Derek handed Emma back to me. His eyes were red. She has my chin. She has her own face. You know what I mean. I do. Come home. No. Let me prove this was a mistake. You can prove you are capable of being Emma's father. That is separate from being my husband. They are not separate. They are now. The genetic testing appointment occurred 3 days later. Derek arrived with Margaret. Rebecca. CA came too. Vanessa raised an eyebrow when she saw them. Ms. Shaw is not a party to this case. She told Derek's lawyer. She is here for emotional support. The lawyer said. For whom? No one answered. The technician swabbed the inside of my cheek. Then Emma's. Then Derek's. Margaret watched me as though expecting guilt to appear in my posture. I signed the chain of custody form. Derek signed beneath me. For the first time since the birth. We stood close enough for me to smell his cologne. He used to wear it for our anniversary dinners. Now it made me think of an empty hospital room and broken plastic beneath a security guard's shoes. You could stop this. He whispered. You requested it. I mean all of it. You still think I am doing something to you. You took my daughter. I protected myself and Emma while arranging legal access. You vanished. I told you we were safe. You made me look like a monster. I saved a video you chose to cray. His jaw tightened. Rebecca did not know you were in active labor. You knew. She was drunk and upset. You were also drunk. I made a mistake. You keep using the singular. The technician returned with sealed labels. The conversation ended. The report would take 5 business days. During those 5 days, Derek's behavior shifted again. He attended every supervised visit. He completed the newborn care course. He sent questions through the parenting application. How much did she weigh at the pediatric appointment? Is the rash on her cheek normal? Can I bring my mother to the next visit? I answered factual questions. I denied Margaret's attendance until the center approved an expanded visit. He began sending photographs of the nursery again. I ignored them. Then, late on Friday afternoon, the laboratory called Vanessa. The results were ready. Vanessa asked whether I wanted to receive them electronically or at her office. At the office. Monday at 9. Yes. That evening, Derek wrote. My mother wants everyone present when we review the result. We can settle this privately afterward. I stared at the message. He wanted an audience. He expected the test to punish me, even though reason should have told him the child was his. Maybe Rebecca had convinced him. Maybe he had convinced himself because suspicion made my departure easier to understand than rejection. I replied. The report will be handled through counsel and filed according to the court order. His answer came quickly. If you have nothing to hide, why are you afraid? I looked at Emma sleeping in the bassinet beside my bed. Then I typed. I am not afraid of the truth. That is why I preserved it. The report was 6 pages long. Vanessa placed it on the conference table without turning it toward me. You already know what it says. She said. Yes. Read it anyway. I pulled the document closer. The language was clinical. Probability of paternity. 99. 998. Conclusion. Derek Michael Foster could not be excluded as the biological father of Emma Bennett Foster. My hands remained still. I had imagined this moment during the previous week. I expected anger, relief, vindication. Instead, I felt grief. Emma's biology had never been uncertain. Only Derek's decency had been questioned. And he had been the one questioning it. Vanessa filed the result under seal that morning. By noon, Judge Park issued a short order, noting that paternity was established and reminding both parties of the prohibition on public statements. At 12:17, Rebecca deleted her story about the truth coming out. At 12:22, Derek removed the photograph of the empty nursery. At 12:40, Margaret sent me a formal email. Now that this unfortunate confusion has been resolved, we should focus on repairing the family for Emma's sake. I forwarded it to Vanessa. Then I answered through the parenting application. Paternity was never confused. It was questioned by Derek. The divorce and custody proceedings will continue. Derek called 7 times. I declined the AC. H call. At 2:03. He wrote. I was angry. At 2:05. Rebecca put the idea in my head. At 2:07. I never really believed it. At 2:09. You agreed to the test. That means you understood why I needed certainty. I typed a response, deleted it, and tried again. The test gave the court certainty about biology. Your request gave me certainty about you. He did not write again for 2 days. The next supervised visit was different. Derek arrived without gifts. He had read the feeding notes. He warmed the bottle correctly and supported Emma's head. Thomas marked the improvements. I noticed them. 2. I did not deny facts simply because I no longer loved the person creating them. Derek was capable of learning. That did not erase what it had taken to make him try. Near the end of the visit, Emma fell asleep on his chest. He looked through the observation window at me. His face carried a question. I knew the question. Do you see that I can do this? I did. The answer was not the one he wanted. Being capable under supervision did not entitle him to my return. Afterward, he approached me in the lobby while Thomas stood nearby. I am sorry about the test. You should be. I said I'm sorry. I heard you. What else do you want? Nothing. He looked confused. You want the divorce, the money, the house. I want legal clarity and safety for Emma. I do not want anything emotional from you. That is not possible. It already happened. He stepped closer. Do you think I don't know you? You shut down when you are hurt. Then you wait for me to come after you. In the past. You still wear the bracelet I gave you. I looked at my wrist. The silver chain had belonged to my grandmother. Derek had repaired the clasp once and convinced himself that made it his gift. This was Grandma's. His face changed. That small mistake revealed more than any grand speak. H could have. He knew the symbols of our marriage only when they reflected him. Margaret wants to have dinner. He said. Both families. No lawyers. We can discuss an agreement. No. She wants to meet Emma. She can request an approved visit. She is her grandmother. That relationship does not give her authority over me. She thinks you are punishing everyone. I am ending a marriage. Come tea. Oh, dinner. Bring Audrey. Bring Vanessa if you have to. Vanessa is not family. She seems to make every decision for you. I held his gaze. No. She is the first person who explained how to make my own decisions enforceable. The dinner took place because I eventually decided I wanted it tea. Oh. Not to reconcile. Not to negotiate custody. To end the private mythology the foster family had built around my departure. For 2 weeks, Margaret had contacted relatives, family friends, and members of the company board. She described Derek's night at the bar as an isolated error. She described my departure as a postpartum crisis. She described Rebecca as a vulnerable family friend who had been unfairly blamed. I could not control every conversation. But I could place facts in one room. I agreed under 3 conditions. Audrey would attend. The discussion would be limited to finances and public misinformation. No one would touch or photograph Emma without my consent. Vanessa advised me not to bring the baby. So Emma remained with a licensed postpartum nurse at Grandma's apartment. The dinner was held at Margaret's house in Winnetka. The dining room looked exactly as it had in my first life. Long walnut table, white roses, silver candlesticks. A portrait of Derek's late father above the fireplace. I had spent years sitting beneath that portrait while Margaret explained what the foster family required of me. This time I brought a gray document case. Margaret's sister Carol was there. Derek's cousin Nathan attended with his wife Jay. Yulia, Derek's business partner, sat near the end of the table. Rebecca occupied the chair beside Derek. Margaret looked at the empty space near me. Where is Emma? Safe. I prepared the nursery upstairs. She is not staying. Margaret pressed her lips together. We are here because this situation has become destructive. She began after everyone sat. Private marital problems are affecting the family and the company. I agree. I said. Derek looked relieved. We need discretion. Margaret continued. Claire. You have always valued dignity. If you withdraw the more inflammatory custody allegations, Derek is prepared to apologize publicly for missing the birth. I did not request a public apology. You allowed people to believe he abandoned you. He did. Rebecca shifted. He was supporting a friend in crisis. Audrey laughed once. Margaret turned toward her. This is not amusing. No, Audrey said. It is just impressive that you can say that with a straight face. I opened the document case. Derek's shoulders tightened. What is that? He asked. The reason I agreed to come. I placed copies of the bank statements in front of each adult. Highlighted charges ran down the pages. Langford Hotel. 6. 480. Stanton Family Law. 12. 000. Furnished apartment deposit. 8. 750. Luxury spa. 1. 960. Jewelry boutique. 4. 300. Private car service. 2. 114. All paid from the joint account where my freelance income and Derek's salary had been deposited. Carol looked at Rebecca. Those are yours. Rebecca folded her arms. Derek offered to help me during my divorce. With marital money. Nathan asked. It was a temporary arrangement. Derek said. I placed the next page on the table. It showed the messages from the family tablet. Claire barely checks it. Once the baby comes, she'll be too exhausted to keep checking the accounts. And the house. Both names. But she won't fight me. Silence spread across the table. Julia read the messages twice. Some of these transfers were described as client development expenses. She said. Derek looked at him. This is not a company meeting. No. Julia replied. But if personal expenses were categorized through Foster Reed, it becomes one. Rebecca reached for the papers. I placed my hand over them. These are copies. You may keep them. Her face flushed. You invaded Derek's privacy. The messages synced to a jointly owned household device. They discussed my money, my house, and my physical condition after childbirth. They were jokes. The bar video was also a joke. I said. The paternity accusation was anger. The hotel was support. The money was temporary. At what point does a pattern become a choice? Derek's voice dropped. What do you want me to say? The truth would be new. I did not sleep with her. Rebecca stared at him. It was the first time anyone had directly named the question. I looked at Derek. In the first week after your daughter's birth, you paid another woman's bills. Let her sit beside your mother in court. Allowed her to imply Emma was not yours. And blamed her for putting the idea in your head. Whether you slept with her does not determine whether you betrayed me. I never promised Rebecca anything. I opened another page. This one showed a message sent 2 nights before I gave birth. Rebecca, when are you going to choose? Derek. After the baby comes. Claire will be focused on her. We can figure out the rest without a war. Rebecca. You mean the house. Derek. Everything. Margaret's hand tightened around her wine glass. Derek. He looked at me. You are twisting that. What did you mean? I meant we would help Rebecca get settled. Using my exhaustion as an opportunity. I knew you would be busy with our newborn. You had already made the entire pregnancy about schedules and rules. I almost smiled. There it was. The real grievance. I had asked him to attend appointments. I had wanted him to answer his phone. I had given him a list of emergency contacts. He experienced responsibility as control because he believed freedom meant other people carrying the cost of his choices. Julia pushed the bank statements away. Claire. How much personal capital do you still have in Foster Reed? $180,000. Secured by the River North location and equipment. Derek turned sharply. That loan is not due for another 18 months. The agreement contains an acceleration clause. If company funds are materially misrepresented or used for undisclosed personal exp. Enzas. Julia closed his eyes. Margaret spoke before Derek could. You would call the loan now. With the company already under pressure. I will protect my separate property. You know what that money means to Derek. I know what it meant to me. It was my grandmother's life savings. You invested because you believed in your husband. I made a loan because my grandmother taught me never to confuse belief with documentation. Derek stood. You are trying to ruin me. No. I am ending my role as the person who prevents your decisions from reaching you. You waited until the company was vulnerable. I learned about the transfers after giving birth alone. You knew Rebecca needed help. I knew what you told me. She had nowhere to go. She stayed in a hotel that cost more per night than my first apartment's monthly rent. Rebecca rose. I will not sit here while you humiliate me. I looked at her. You came to a family dinner intended to pressure me into returning to my marriage. You sat beside my husband. After suggesting my child was not his. You are not being trapped here. Her face hardened. You think leaving makes you strong. No. Leaving made me honest. With myself. With everyone. She picked up her purse. Derek caught her wrist. Rebecca. Wait. Every person at the table saw it. His wife had just laid out proof that he used marital money to support another woman. And his first instinct was to stop that woman from leaving. In my first life. That moment would have shattered me. Now it clarified everything. I closed the document case. Thank you. I said. Derek released Rebecca. For what? For doing in front of witnesses what you keep insisting I imagined. I stood. Margaret looked pale. Claire. Sit down. No. We have not discussed Emma. You will not discuss custody with me at a dinner table. We are her family. You are relatives. Family requires behavior. Carol looked down. Nathan's wife quietly moved her chair away from Rebecca's abandoned seat. The room had changed. N.O.T. because I screamed. Because the facts made it impossible to keep pretending everyone had equal responsibility for the damage. Outside, Derek followed Audrey and me to the driveway. Rain had begun to fall. Claire. Stop. I kept walking. He stepped in front of me. You planned that. Yes. You wanted everyone to turn against me. I wanted them to see the information you expected me to hide. You could have handled this privately. I did. For years. His face twisted. What happened to you in that hospital? I looked at him beneath the yellow light above the garage. I saw the man I had married. The man who used to bring me coffee during overnight editing sessions. The man who once drove 3 hours because my grandmother fell and I was too frightened to drive. The man who later treated every decent thing he had done as permanent credit against future harm. I understood you. I said. That is not an answer. It is the only one that matters. 2 days later. Foster Reed began an internal audit. Julia's attorney contacted Vanessa for copies of the bank records. Several charges had been routed through a company reimbursement system. Derek accused me of involving his business partner. I reminded him that Julia had attended the dinner at Margaret's invitation. The loan entered formal review. I did not seize a restaurant. I did not demand ownership. I sent a notice requiring repayment under the written terms. For the first time in our marriage. I stopped using my resources to make Derek's life easier. His response was not remorse. It was escalation. On Monday morning. Vanessa called me. Derek filed for sole temporary custody. I was holding Emma against my shoulder. She had just fallen asleep after 40 minutes of crying. What is his basis? He alleges you experienced a severe postpartum psychiatric episode. Disappeared impulsively. Isolated the child. And became obsessed with punishing him. I have attended every medical appointment. I know. My doctor documented my condition. I know. I offered visits. I know. What evidence does he have? He attached records showing you attended therapy 3 years ago after a miscarriage. The room went quiet. I had lost a pregnancy at 11 weeks. Derek had attended 1 appointment. Then stopped because he said grief made him uncomfortable. I went to therapy for 6 months. Now. He was using the healthiest decision I had made during that loss as evidence that I was unfit to raise Emma. He also states he was present throughout your labor and was temporarily away when Emma was delivered. Vanessa said. I looked toward the folder on my desk. Inside were the hospital call logs, the security report, the bar receipt, and the video timestamps. He signed that statement under oath. Yes. A slow calm moved through me. In the first life, Derek had survived every lie because I argued with the emotion behind it instead of proving the fact. This time he had placed the lie inside a court document. Good. I said. Vanessa was silent. Good. He finally gave us something the court can measure. The custody evaluation began with an interview in Grandma's living room. The evaluator was Dr. Laura Mitchell, a psychologist appointed by the court. She sat in an armchair with a legal pad balanced on one knee while I fed Emma. Mr. Foster believes your departure was impulsive, she said. It was fast. It was not impulsive. What is the difference? I preserved evidence, contacted counsel, arranged medical follow-up, moved to separate property, proposed supervised access, and filed through the court. An impulsive act would not have included a parenting schedule. Why did you believe supervision was necessary? Derek was intoxicated during the birth, became aggressive at the hospital, rejected initial visits because he disliked the conditions, and had no newborn care experience. Do you believe he is dangerous? I believe he is careless when another person's needs compete with his preferences. That is not the same answer. No. She watched me burp Emma. Do you want him removed from the child's life? No. Do you still love him? The question surprised me. I remember loving him. That was not what I asked. No. Did the feeling disappear in one night? The hope did. Dr. Mitchell wrote something down. I continued before she could ask another question. I understand how that sounds. But the birth was not an isolated event. It was the moment I stopped translating his choices into excuses. Why did you remain married before that? Because he was never cruel every day. Some days he was affectionate. Some days he apologized. Most days he relied on me. I thought inconsistency meant the good version of him was the real one and the harmful version was temporary. And now I think both versions are real. I cannot build Emma's safety around whichever one appears. Dr. Mitchell met with Derek separately. She observed both homes. The marital house was larger than Grandma's apartment. It had a nursery, a fenced yard, and 3 empty guest rooms. My apartment had 2 bedrooms, an old radiator, and a kitchen table covered in labeled folders. Dr. Mitchell did not confuse square footage with care. She watched me change Emma's diaper, respond to her cues, prepare bottles, and explain the pediatrician's recommendations. During Derek's observation, he displayed the nursery. He had added a rocking chair, new curtains, and a wall of framed family photographs. Most were photographs of himself as a child. When Dr. Mitchell asked who would care for Emma during his evening restaurant hours, he said Margaret would help. When she asked whether Margaret had completed newborn care training, he did not know. When she asked Emma's pediatrician's name, he said Dr. Ryan. Her name was Dr. Patel. When she asked about Emma's reflux, he said she did not have any medical problems. I had shared the diagnosis through the parenting application 9 days earlier. Dr. Mitchell did not tell me those details. Thomas recorded similar problems at the supervised visits. Derek improved at holding and feeding Emma, but he treated written instructions as criticism. At the 8th visit, he arrived 15 minutes late because Rebecca's car had broken down. Thomas documented the reason. At the 9th, he spent 20 minutes asking whether I had started dating. Thomas redirected him 4 times. At the 10th, Rebecca appeared in the center lobby. I saw her before Derek did. She wore sunglasses and carried a gift box. Thomas stepped forward. Ms. Shaw, you are not authorized to attend this visit. I'm only dropping something off. Derek came out of the visitation room. What are you doing? You left your phone in my car. She held it out. Then she looked past him toward Emma, who was resting in a portable bassinet. So that is her. My body went rigid. Thomas moved between Rebecca and the baby. You need to leave. Rebecca smiled at Derek. Can I hold her for 1 second? No, I said. Derek looked at me. She is not dangerous. That is not the point. You let strangers at the center hold her. They are trained professionals. Rebecca is family. No, she is not. Rebecca's smile disappeared. Derek reached into the bassinet. Thomas stopped him. Mr. Foster, do not move the child while this issue is unresolved. This is my visit and the court order limits attendees. Derek looked furious. Rebecca lowered her voice. Forget it. Claire wants a scene. I took out my phone and sent Vanessa a message. Unauthorized person present at visitation center. Staff intervening. Rebecca turned toward the exit. Derek followed her. He walked 12 feet from the visitation room before Thomas called his name. Mr. Foster, if you leave the secured area. The visit ends. Derek stopped for a moment. He stood between Rebecca and Emma. The scene was so similar to the last day of my previous life that the walls seemed to tilt. Rebecca leaving. Emma behind him. Derek hesitating because he believed both would wait. In the first life, he had followed Rebecca toward the dock. This time, Thomas's voice and the court order held him in place. Rebecca left alone. Derek returned to the room. But he had already made the choice. Thomas wrote it down. At the formal custody hearing, Derek's attorney presented him as a reformed father fighting an unstable wife. He had completed the alcohol assessment. The evaluator found no evidence of dependence. Though she noted binge drinking behavior and poor judgment, he had completed the parenting course. He had attended every scheduled visit. Those facts mattered. I did not try to erase them. Then his attorney introduced my therapy records. Mrs. Foster experienced depression after a prior pregnancy loss. He said. She required 6 months of treatment. My therapist, Dr. Rachel Kim, testified by video. Yes, Mrs. Foster sought treatment voluntarily. Did she express feelings of hopelessness during grief? Yes. Did she discuss leaving her marriage? She discussed feeling emotionally unsupported. Could childbirth have triggered a recurrence? Any major life event can affect mental health. Derek's attorney leaned forward. So, it is possible that her departure was a symptom of psychiatric instability. Dr. Kim did not blink. It is possible that hiring an attorney is a rational response to marital conflict. A few people in the courtroom shifted. The attorney tried again. Did Mrs. Foster behave impulsively during treatment? No. Was she ever hospitalized? No. Did she ever threaten herself, her husband, or another person? No. Did she complete treatment successfully? Yes. My current postpartum evaluation was then admitted. Alert. Oriented. No evidence of psychosis. No evidence of mania. No suicidal or homicidal ideation. Strong attachment to infant. Appropriate safety planning. Derek looked at the table. Vanessa called Dr. Chen. The doctor. Described the labor. Mrs. Foster arrived at 5:20 p.m. She reported that her husband was expected shortly. Did he arrive? No. How many attempts were made to reach him? 6 documented attempts by hospital staff. Mrs. Foster also called from her own phone. Was there an emergency? At approximately 11:55 p.m. The fetal heart rate showed a prolonged deceleration. We prepared for intervention. The rate recovered and delivery proceeded without surgery. Was Mr. Foster reachable during that period? No. Did Mrs. Foster display confusion or impaired judgment? No. She was frightened but fully oriented. Did she make informed decisions after the birth? Yes. Was she medically cleared before discharge? Yes. Vanessa introduced the hospital records. Then she introduced the bar receipt. Derek's card had opened a tab at 7:42 p.m. Drinks were charged at 8:03, 8:37, 9, 10, 9, 56, 10, 21, 10, 49, 11, 11, 11, 52, 12, 16, and 12. 44. The surveillance footage showed him entering with Rebecca. It showed him silencing his phone and placing it face down on the bar. It showed him climbing onto the table. It showed him kissing Rebecca's forehead while our daughter's heart rate dropped across the city. The courtroom watch. Ed the video. No dramatic music. No interpretation. Only time. At 11:55 p.m. Dr. Chen stood beside my bed preparing for an emergency. At 11:55 p.m. Derek poured whiskey into Rebecca's mouth while his friends cheered. At 12:07 a.m. Emma was born. At 12:08 a.m. Derek said, "Claire will forgive me." At 12 a.m. The hospital called. At 12:13 a.m. He looked at the screen and turned the phone over. Vanessa paused the footage. Mr. Foster stated in his sworn declaration that he was present throughout labor and briefly stepped away near the delivery. Is that statement accurate? Derek's lawyer stood. My client misunderstood the wording. Judge Park looked directly at Derek. You signed the declaration. Derek swallowed. I believed it meant I was involved throughout the pregnancy. It says labor. My attorney prepared it. His lawyer went still. Judge Park's expression hardened. You reviewed and swore to it. Yes. So it was false. Derek looked at me. I gave him nothing. Yes. He said. The next evidence concerned money. Julia testified reluctantly. He had known Derek since college. They had opened their first restaurant together. Every answer appeared to cost him something. Were company funds used for Ms. Shaw's expenses? Vanessa asked. Some charges were submitted as client development. Were they client expenses? No. Who approved the reimbursement? Derek. Did Mrs. Foster? No. Not according to the records. Did her separate fund support the company during this period? Yes. How much? $180,000 under a secured promissory note. Has the company repaid that amount? No. Was Derek aware that inaccurate expense reporting could trigger acceleration? Yes. Derek stared at Julia. Julia did not look back. Then Thomas testified about the supervised visits. He described Derek's improvements. He also described the questions about my dating life, the late arrival caused by Rebecca, and the unauthorized visit. Did Mr. Foster leave the visitation area? Vanessa asked. He began to follow Ms. Shaw. I informed him that leaving would end the visit. He returned. What was the infant doing? Resting in the bassinet. Did Mr. Foster ask Ms. Shaw to leave before following her? No. Did he inform the center she was coming? No. Derek's attorney emphasized that he had returned. Thomas agreed. Would you recommend immediate unsupervised overnight visits? The attorney asked. No. Why? Mr. Foster has demonstrated affection and some developing skills. He has not consistently demonstrated judgment under emotional pressure. That sentence became the center of the case. Not whether Derek loved Emma. Whether his judgment could be trusted when love competed with desire, pride, alcohol, Rebecca, or discomfort. Vanessa called me last. I told the truth without making it larger. I described the birth, the departure, the proposed visits, the paternity test, the finances, the family dinner, and the custody filing. Derek's attorney stood for cross-examination. Mrs. Foster, you had been considering divorce before the birth. Correct. You had considered it. But you did not tell your husband. I asked for counseling twice. That was not my question. No. I had not told him I intended to file. You made the decision within hours of childbirth. I acted within hours. The reasons existed before. Did you experience intense emotions after deliv? Yes. Fear. Yes. Anger. Yes. Grief. Yes. Yet you claim you were perfectly rational. I did not claim I had no emotions. I said I made organized decisions. He approached the witness stand. You watched a short video and decided to destroy your family. I watched my husband ignore emergency calls during labor because he was drinking with another woman. Then I reviewed months of financial records and messages. You took a newborn from her father. I arranged supervised access through counsel. You named the child without him. He was invited to attend the birth. You moved into a secret residence. I moved into property I own. Disclosed through my attorney and the court. You refused private communication. I required written communication because he was threatening and because the facts were disputed. You called a loan that could damage his business. I enforced a contract after discovering misuse of money. You do not deny that every action harmed Mr. Foster. I looked at Derek. His face was pale. I deny that avoiding consequences is the same as being harmed. The attorney returned to his table. Judge Park issued her decision 2 days later. I retained primary physical custody. I received sole authority over Emma's medical decisions for 1 year. Subject to review. Derek's visits remained supervised for 3 more months, followed by a gradual transition to unsupervised daytime visits if he complied with the plan. No overnight visits would occur until Emma was older and Derek demonstrated consistent caregiving. Rebecca could not attend visits or be present during Derek's parenting time without written agreement or further court order. Both parents were prohibited from using Emma's image in public posts. Derek's request for sole custody was denied. The judge also referred his false declaration to the appropriate review process and ordered him to pay part of my legal fees. It was not total victory. Family court was not designed to declare one person good and another evil. It created rules where trust had failed. That was enough. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited because someone had leaked the restaurant group connection to a local business blog. Vanessa guided me toward a side exit. Derek caught up in the corridor. Claire. I stopped because there were court officers nearby. He looked different. Not transformed. Reduced. Confidence had left his posture. Rebecca is gone, he said. I said nothing. She left last night. That is not relevant to me. She lied about her debts. She was seeing her ex again. She used me. You used our marriage to support her. I know. No. You know she did not choose you. That is not the same as understanding what you did to me. His eyes filled. I lost my wife. You lost access to someone who carried every consequence for you. That is not all you were. It was what you valued most. He shook his head. You cannot erase 12 years. I am not erasing them. Then why does it feel like none of it matters? Because you treated every good year as permission for the next injury. He stepped closer. I will change for Emma. I hope you do. For you. No. His face tightened. You do not know what I am capable of. I know exactly what you are capable of. That is why the answer is no. I turned away. He called after me. What happened to the woman who loved me? I looked back once. She finally believed your choices. The final divorce hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks later. 3 days before it, Derek asked to meet through our attorneys. Vanessa and I arrived at the mediation office at 10 in the morning. Derek was already there. On the table in front of him sat the wedding ring I had sealed in the hospital specimen bag. He must have found it among the belongings Audrey left behind. The time was still written across the label. L. 12:41 a.m. He touched the plastic. I know when you took it off, he said. I sat across from him. Yes. 34 minutes after Emma was born. Yes. He looked at the ring as if it were a body he had been asked to identify. I will give you the house, he said. My shares. 2. Whatever you want. Delay the divorce for 1 year. No. You haven't heard the proposal. I heard the condition. Claire. Please. It was the first time he had said the word without anger behind it. I did not mistake humility for repair. Derek's proposal filled 12 pages. He offered me exclusive use of the marital house. He offered temporary control of his company distributions. He offered to place half his shares in trust for Emma. He offered counseling, sobriety monitoring, and a public apology. In exchange, I would postpone the divorce for 1 year and attend weekly marriage therapy. Vanessa placed the document in front of me. You do not have to answer now, she said. I know my answer. Derek leaned forward. Read all of it. I did. You always said I never fought for us, he said. I said you never showed up for us. I am showing up now. You are negotiating after losing leverage. His face tightened. That is not fair. Perhaps not. It is still true. I am offering you everything. No. You are offering assets in exchange for access to me. I am offering security. I already created security. In a 2-bedroom apartment with an old radiator. The old Derek. Not gone. Only waiting beneath desperation. I held his gaze. Yes. In a 2-bedroom apartment where no one spends my money on another woman, questions my child's paternity, or treats my exhaustion as an opportunity. He looked away first. His attorney cleared his throat. We can revise the proposal. The marriage is not available for negotiation. I said. Property, repayment, support, and parenting terms are. Derek closed his eyes. Do you hate me? No. The answer surprised him. Perhaps he expected hatred because hatred would have kept us connected. I do not need to hate you. I continued. I need to stop building my life around what you might become. He touched the plastic bag containing the ring. I remember buying this. So do I. You cried when I proposed. I loved you. Past tense. Yes. Just like that. No. Not just like that. I thought of all the moments I had once dismissed because they were not dramatic enough to justify leaving. The dinner where he answered Rebecca's call and never returned to the table. The anniversary when he used my gift money to cover a company expense without ask. The miscarriage appointment he missed because sadness made him uncomfortable. The ultrasound where he spent half the visit texting. The nursery he promised to paint but left unfinished. The hospital calls he saw and ignored. The paternity request. The sworn lie. The way he followed. Rebecca from the visitation room. Love did not disappear in one moment. It was spent. I said. You kept withdrawing from it because you believed the account could never reach zero. His eyes closed. No one in the room spoke. Then he asked. What are your terms? I opened my folder. The marital house will be sold. Net proceeds divided according to documented contributions and the temporary financial order. He nodded slowly. The company will repay my separate property loan under a structured 6-month schedule secured by the existing collateral. S. attorney made a note. A separate trust will be created for Emma. Neither parent can borrow from it. Contributions will be proportional to income with annual statements provided to both parties. Derek looked at me. I already offered more than that. I do not want a dramatic gesture you see. And later describe as a sacrifice. I want enforceable responsibility. His jaw tightened. But he nodded. Parenting will follow Judge Park's transition plan. Rebecca will have no contact with Emma unless I consent in writing or the court changes the order. She is gone. The term remains. Fine. Your mother may attend approved family visits after completing the infant care class. And agreeing in writing not to post photographs. Question paternity. Or discuss litigation around Emma. My mother will never sign that. Then she will not attend. Derek stared at the papers. You thought of everything. No. I thought of what happened when I trusted everyone else to think for me. The mediation lasted 6 hours. Derek argued about the use. Margaret had expected Emma to grow up there. The nursery had been designed for her. The property had belonged to the foster family before Derek and I purchased it from the family trust. I did not want it. The house had too many rooms where I had learned to make myself smaller. He argued about the repayment schedule. Foster Reed's cash flow was strained after the audit. Investors had paused expansion plans. Julia had required Derek to step back from financial approvals for 6 months. I did not demand immediate liquidation. I accepted scheduled repayment with interest because fairness did not require destruction. He argued about the trust. He wanted sole control because he understood investments. I refused. The man who used marital funds for Rebecca's hotel did not receive unilateral access to Emma's money. He argued about Margaret. She loves Emma. He said. She loves the idea of Emma as a foster. That is cruel. Then let her prove me wrong by respecting one page of boundaries. By sunset. We had an agreement. Derek signed first. His hand shook near the end. When the papers reached me, I read every line again. Then I signed my name. Claire Bennett Foster. For the last time. The final hearing was brief. Judge Park reviewed the agreement and asked whether both parties entered it voluntarily. Yes. Derek said. Yes. I said. She asked whether reconciliation was possible. No. I said. Derek was silent for 2 seconds too long. Then he said. No. The marriage ended at 10:32 on a Tuesday morning. There was no thunder. No applause. A clerk stamped the decree. Vanessa squeezed my shoulder. Derek stood beside his attorney, staring at the paper that converted our private collapse into a legal fact. Outside the courtroom, he handed me the ring in its plastic bag. I don't want it. I said. Neither do I. Then dispose of it. I thought Emma might want it someday. No. He looked startled. She may want something from our marriage. She will have photographs. She will have the truth appropriate to her age. She does not need an object that represents a promise neath. Of us kept. I kept it until you left. You remained married. That is not the same thing. He looked down at the ring. What should I tell her when she is old enough? Yes. Tell her you missed her birth because you made a selfish choice. Tell her I left because I needed safety and honesty. Tell her we both love her. Do not ask her to decide which parent was right. His eyes filled. You make it sound simple. It is not simple. It is clear. He put the ring in his pocket. The marital house sold 4 months later. I returned once to collect the remaining belongings. The nursery was still intact. Derek had left the framed name sign on the shelf. Emma. Gold letters. Against pale green wood. I stood in the doorway for a long time. In my first life. Emma had slept in that room. I had walked its floor at 2 in the morning while Derek slept. I had placed one hand against her back to make sure she was breathing. I had sat beside the crib after her death because the silence inside the room felt like punishment. Now the crib had never held her. The room was only a room. That realization freed me more than I expected. I removed the name sign from the shelf. Derek watched from the hallway. You can take everything. He said. I only came for what is mine. The furniture is hers. She has furniture. Claire. I turned. He looked thinner. The expensive certainty was gone. He had stopped drinking after the custody ruling. According to his compliance reports, he attended therapy. He arrived early for visits. Change had begun. It did not rewrite the past. I found something. He said. He handed me an envelope. Inside was the hospital gift shop receipt for the stuffed bear he had bought after Emma's birth in my first life. For one terrible second, I thought memory had crossed timelines. Then I looked at the date. This life. He had bought another bear the morning after I left. I was going to bring it to the hospital. He said. Then you were gone. I held the receipt. What do you want me to do with this? I don't know. You keep showing me evidence that you intended to arrive after the important part. His face tightened. I came. You arrived when it became convenient. I cannot change that. No. I know that now. I handed the receipt back. That is part of the consequence. You have to know it without me making you feel better. He nodded. Before I left. He asked whether I would ever forgive him. I don't know what forgiveness would mean to you. That you stopped seeing me as the worst thing I did. I do not. Hope moved across his face. I continued. I see you as every choice you made. Including the good ones. I also see what those choices cost. A complete picture does not require reconciliation. His hope faded. That sounds like something your lawyer taught you. No. Pain taught me. Vanessa helped me put it into documents. I took Emma's name sign and walked out of the house. Margaret refused to sign the grandparent boundaries for 2 months. She called them humiliating. She sent letters to Crib. The foster legacy. She bought an engraved silver rattle and demanded that it be delivered to Emma. I returned it. Eventually, the supervised family visit occurred at the same center Derek had once resented. Margaret arrived 10 minutes early with no jewelry, no photographer, and a completed infant care certificate. When I handed Emma to her, Margaret's hands trembled. She looks like Derek. She whispered. She looks like Emma. Margaret pressed her lips together. Then she nodded. Yes, she does. It was not an apology. But it was the first correction she accepted without argument. The visit lasted 45 minutes. When Margaret began asking whether Emma would attend the foster family Christmas, Thomas reminded her that scheduling questions went through the parenting application. She stopped. Boundaries did not transform people. They limited the damage people could cause while deciding whether to transform themselves. Rebecca left Chicago before the divorce was final. Her former husband sued over undisclosed debt. The furnished apartment terminated her lease after missed payments. The social circle that welcomed her return became less enthusiastic when the company audit exposed the personal expenses. She sent me one email. You think you won because Derek chose you. Legally, he never loved you the way he loved me. I read it once. Then I forwarded it to Vanessa and blocked the address. The message misunderstood everything. I had not won. I had stopped competing for him. Foster Reed survived. Julia removed Derek from sole financial control, closed one unprofitable location, and repaid my loan over 6 months. Derek kept his career, though not the untouchable reputation he once enjoyed. That mattered to me. I did not need him ruined. Emma needed a father capable of paying support, attending visits, and building a life that did not depend on someone cleaning up behind him. For 3 months, his visits remained supervised. Then, he received daytime parenting time every Saturday. The first Saturday, he arrived with an organized diaper bag and a printed schedule. He knew Dr. Patel's name. He knew Emma's reflux medication. He knew she hated the sound of the blender and calmed when someone hummed off-key. At the end of the visit, he returned her on time. There was traffic. He said, "I left early. Thank you." He waited. In the past, gratitude would have expanded into emotional labor. I would have told him I was proud, reassured him that he was a good father, used one responsible day to erase years of carelessness. This time I accepted the fact and nothing more. He had fulfilled his responsibility. That was good. It was not extraordinary. When Emma was 9 months old, I returned to editing. Not full-time. Not because I needed a career montage to prove I had healed. I needed work that reminded me my mind existed beyond crisis management. My first project was a documentary about women rebuilding after financial abuse. I did not include my own story. I sat behind the screen, shaped hours of testimony into coherent time, and recognized a pattern in almost every interview. The women had not stayed because they were weak. They stayed because harm arrived beside affection. Apologies, children, mortgages, illness, and hope. Leaving was not one brave moment. It was a sequence of practical decisions made while afraid. Save the record. Open the account. Call the lawyer. Tell one safe person. Pack the documents. Close the door. I understood those women. I also understood that no one could Ave for them. Audrey watched Emma on editing days. The crook-eared rabbit became Emma's favorite toy by her first birthday. She could stand while holding the coffee table. She had 4 teeth, strong opinions about bananas, and a laugh that made strangers turn around in grocery stores. Derek attended a separate birthday visit in the morning. I refused a joint party, not to punish him, because I did not want Emma's milestone staged as proof that our divorce was painless. Derek brought a small wooden train. He did not bring photographers. He did not post online. At the end of the visit, he stood in Grandma's doorway while Emma banged 2 train pieces together. "Do you ever think about that night?" he asked. "Every day." "I do, too." I waited. I remember seeing the empty hospital room. He said, "I thought you were trying to scare me." "I know. I thought you would call after a few hours." "I know. I could not understand that you had actually left." "No. Why didn't you give me one last chance before filing?" I looked at Emma. In another life, I had given him thousands of chances after that night. They had not looked like chances because they were ordinary. Every morning I stayed. Every bill I paid. Every excuse I accepted. Every time I handed him our daughter and believed his promise to watch her. "You had the last chance," I said. "It was ringing in your hand while I was in labor." He closed his eyes. I saw the calls. I already knew. The surveillance footage had shown him turning the phone over. Still, hearing him admit it changed the air. "Why didn't you answer?" Rebecca had been crying. Everyone was watching. I thought if I answered, you would tell me to leave. And I did not want to look controlled. "You chose not to know whether your daughter was safe because you did not want your friends to think your wife could influence you." Yes. The honesty was ugly. It was also the first real apology he had offered. "I am sorry," he said. "Not because you left. Not because Rebecca used me. Not because the court embarrassed me. I am sorry because you needed me and I decided your need could wait." I felt grief move through me. Not longing. Grief for the apology the woman I had been would have mistaken for a reso. And to return. "Thank you for saying it clearly. Is that all?" "Yes." He nodded. Then he left. 3 years passed. Grandma's apartment became ours in every visible way. The dining room turned into my editing space during the day and Emma's art table in the evening. Her drawings covered the refrigerator. The radiator still clanged in winter. The kitchen remained too small for two adults to open separate cabinets at the same time. It was not the house Margaret imagined for a foster child. It was safe. Derek's parenting time expanded gradually. He completed every requirement. He remained sober. He moved into a 2-bedroom condominium near Emma's preschool and learned how to braid hair badly. He was not the father he had been in my first life. That mattered. It did not make him my husband again. People found that difficult to understand. Even Audrey asked once, "He really has changed?" She said, "Does any part of you wonder?" "No, never. I am glad he changed." "That is not what I asked." "I know." We were folding tiny shirts at my kitchen table. I placed one in a drawer. His growth benefits Emma. It does not obligate me to become the reward. Audrey nodded slowly. That should be printed on something. It would be an ugly pillow. I would buy it. When Emma was 4. Her preschool held a spring performance. She wore a paper flower crown and forgot half the words to a song about rain. Derek sat 2 rows behind me. Margaret sat beside him. We did not perform friendship for the other parents. We were polite. We clapped for our daughter. After the PE performance, Emma ran into my arms. Then reached for Derek. He lifted her for one moment. The 3 of us stood together while a teacher offered to take a photograph. I almost said no. Then I looked at Emma. She loved both of us. Her love did not require me to rewrite the marriage. "All right," I said. The teacher took the picture. Derek held Emma. I stood beside them, not touching him. The photograph was honest. Later in the parking lot, Derek asked whether we could talk. Margaret took Emma to look at a display near the school entrance. Derek placed his hands in his coat pockets. "I have been seeing someone," he said. "That is your private life." It ended. "That is also your private life. She said she was still waiting for you." I said nothing. Was she right? You are the only person who can answer that. I still love you. I know. You always say that like it changes nothing. It changes nothing. He looked older than he had at the bar. Not worse. More real. I am not asking you to forget, he said. I am asking whether the person I am now could have a chance. No. He looked down. You did not even think about it. I thought about it years ago. I am not that man anymore. I believe you. His head lifted. Then why? Because becoming safer does not restore the relationship you destroyed. Because I do not want to spend the rest of my life measuring whether your change will last. Because I am peaceful. Because I trust myself now. Because I do not love you as a partner. His eyes filled. But he did not argue. That was another sign he had changed. I wish I had become this person before losing you, he said. So do I. It was true. I did not need to lie to protect the boundary. He nodded toward the school. Emma wants us both at dinner. We can have dinner for her. Kindergarten graduation. In public. With Audrey and your mother. A tired smile crossed his face. Structured. Yes. Enforceable responsibility. You remembered. I remember everything you said now. That must be difficult. It is. Margaret returned with Emma. The conversation ended. On Emma's 5th birthday, I took her to the lake. Not Margaret's lake house. A small public beach 2 hours north of Chicago. Audrey came with us. We packed sandwiches, fruit, sunscreen, the wooden train Derek had given Emma on her first birthday, and the crook-eared rabbit she still refused to sleep without. The water was calm. I watched Emma at every moment. Not with panic. With presence. She wore a yellow swimsuit with tiny white flowers. The same pattern she had worn on the last day of her first life. For years. I had avoided that color. Then Emma chose the suit herself. Mommy, watch me, she shouted. My breath caught. The world narrowed. Water. Yellow flowers. Her wet hair against her neck. For one heartbeat, I saw 2 lives at once. In one. Derek walked toward the dock while Rebecca cried. In one. I answered an email. In one. Emma disappeared beneath the surface. In this life. I stood. I'm watching. I called. Emma ran through water that reached her ankles and laughed when it splashed her knees. Audrey looked at me. You okay? Yes. This time the answer was true. My phone buzzed inside the beach bag. A message from Derek. Tell the birthday girl I love her. Call when she is ready. I showed it to Emma. She grinned. After cake. I agreed. After cake. I put the phone away. There was no emergency. No demand. No one required me to choose between my daughter's joy and someone else's feelings. We built a crooked sand castle. Emma decorated it with stones. Audrey placed the rabbit on top like a flag. When the sun began to lower, we lit 5 candles on a small cake beneath a picnic shelter. Emma closed her eyes to make a wish. I did not ask what she wanted. Children deserve dreams that did not have to be managed by adults. She blew out the candles. Smoke curled into the evening air. 5 years earlier, on the day she was born, I had taken her and disappeared while her father drank in a bar. For a long time. That was how Derek described it. How Margaret described it. How strangers online described it. Claire vanished. Claire took the baby. Claire destroyed the family. But I knew the truth. I had not disappeared. I had stopped standing in the place where Derek expected to find me no matter how badly he behaved. I had left the hospital with stitches. A newborn. A folder of evidence. And no certainty except that staying would cost too much. I did not know whether the court would believe me. I did not know whether I could afford the legal fight. I did not know whether Derek would change, retaliate, collapse, or become more dangerous. I knew only that Emma was breathing and that I finally understood my responsibility. It was not to preserve the appearance of a family. It was to build a life where my daughter would never learn that love required her to wait quietly while someone repeatedly chose another person. After cake, Emma called Derek. She told him about the water, the sand castle, and the rabbit flag. I sat nearby, listening only enough to know she was safe. When the call ended, she climbed into my lap. Daddy says he missed me when I was a baby. He did. Why? The question had begun appearing more often. I answered with the truth sized for a 5-year-old. Daddy made some choices that meant he was not there at the beginning. Then he had to learn how to show up. Did you teach him? No. Who did? He did. With help. She considered this. Did you wait? No. Why? Because you and I needed a safe home while he learned. She rested her head against me. This is our home. I looked at the lake. The picnic table. Audrey gathering paper plates. The evening light across my daughter's face. Home is where we are safe, honest, and loved. I said. So yes. This is part of it. Emma seemed satisfied. She jumped down and ran to help Audrey. I remained beneath the shelter. The woman I had been in my first life believed endurance was proof of love. She waited in hospital rooms, at dinner tables, beside silent phones, outside locked offices, near a pool where no one had watched her child. She died believing she had failed because she could not hold the family together. I wanted to reach backward through time and tell her the truth. She had not failed because she could not make Derek choose differently. She had failed only when she abandoned her own ability to choose. This life was not a reward. It was not painless. I had not become invulnerable. I still woke some nights with the memory of water in my lungs and Emma's empty room inside my chest. I still grieved the years that existed only for me. I still wondered why I had been given another beginning when so many women received only consequences. But I no longer wasted the second life by asking whether I deserved it. I used it. I saved the evidence. I turned off the location. I called the lawyer. I left the ring. I carried my daughter through the hospital doors. I said no when apologies arrived after accountability. I allowed Derek to become a better father without allowing him to reclaim me as a prize. I let Margaret learn that and motherhood was a relationship, not a rank. I let Rebecca leave without chasing revenge. I recovered my money. I recovered my work. I recovered the quiet inside my own mind. Most importantly, I gave Emma a childhood that did not depend on my willingness to absorb harm. She ran back to me carrying a flat gray stone. For you, she said. What is it? A brave rock. I smiled. What makes it brave? It was in the water. But it came out. I closed my fingers around the stone. That sounds very brave. You keep it. I will. She took my other hand. The three of us walked back toward the car as the first evening lights appeared across the lake. I had once believed my story began when I married Derek. Then, I believed it ended when Emma died. I was wrong both times. My life began again in a hospital room while my husband laughed in a bar and told the world I would forgive him. He thought he knew me. He knew the woman who waited. The woman who explained. The woman who covered the bill. The woman who protected his reputation while he destroyed her trust. He did not know the woman who could leave without asking him to understand. On the day my daughter was born, I disappeared from his life. But that was only half the truth. It was also the day I returned to myself.